So this is a very soft launch of a very passionate project that I have right now. And it's actually been something that I've been working on individually for many, many, many years. And it's something I haven't talked a lot about in public. I talk about it individually in sessions with people. I talk about it with my close-ins, but I don't really broadcast out in public that I have ADD and that I struggle with neurodivergence and getting tasks done. So, like when you were one of us that's here was talking about one of the superpowers is getting it done. That's one of my biggest challenges in life. And I wanted to talk about this more. The email that went out was talking about my daughter, Nick, um, is neurodivergent, and we got to live together for 11 months this last year. And one of the things that was such a gift, there were many things that were a gift about that for me. But one of the biggest ones was living with someone who understood neurodivergence in a way that I didn't, because Nick has done a lot more research on how to navigate life when you have sensory processing issues and when you get really distracted. And when we get overwhelmed by things that are just, for someone who's not neurodivergent, it just looks normal. It's just like, why don't you just do that? So the impetus for this has been a lot of conversations that we had over this last year and what it was like for me to live with someone who wasn't judging me, who wasn't finding me lacking, who um, really was compassionate when I would get really stuck in the places that I was hiding out. So Nick has been encouraging me to actually niche down my niche and really start looking at what it is like to be an entrepreneur and neurodivergent. And so I'm going to spend a little time today just going over some definitions so you know what the heck I'm talking about, what kinds of things that we're going to be exploring in the future, and then what I've identified as structures for fulfillment. What are the kinds of things that we need to have in place in order to navigate certain conditions? Now, whether or not you're diagnosed with anything neurodivergent, if it's just something you as an entrepreneur, you want to just keep getting more tools, it's going to be appropriate for most of y'all who are running your own businesses to engage with some of this material. If it's not for you, there may be people you're working with going, what the heck, what's going on? So I wanted to just start sharing what some of my thinking is after 40 years of being self-employed and running businesses and running into the breakdowns. And I wasn't diagnosed until I was in my early 40s. And so at that point, I was with a couples counselor. And I want to tell you a little bit about why my story is. And I was late, and my partner was mad because I run late a lot, which is one of the patterns that happens. And Mary Blackburn asked me, she said, well, let me ask you some questions. Do you run late a lot? Do you have trouble with clutter? Do the tags inside your clothes bother you? I'm like, whoa, how do you know that? How do you know that? And she was like, sweetie, I think you have classic ADD. And it had never even occurred to me, I had no idea that my brain was working differently than a lot of the people in my family. So I can, my whole life, my mom would say, we love you to pieces. We just don't know where you came from. I'm like, ouch. Oh, what's different? I've had family members look at my car if it was in a goblin, what Nick refers to as goblin piles. It's just like these messes that seem to appear. And one of my family members looked at the back of my car a couple of years ago and went, oh, I guess everyone struggles. It was that kind of stuff that was run at me constantly. And so what that did was it internalized there's something wrong with me, that I'm unable that there's a place that's stupid, that people, space cadet. There's been a lot of criticism and nitpicking that I just kind of internalized for one thing and thought that some of that was true, but also like really walking around feeling like there was something wrong with me. And so this last year with Nick really helped interrupt a lot of those internalized messages where I walk around embarrassed and feeling bad. So instead of feeling bad about myself and what's the matter with me, it is shifting into, oh, there's this condition I'm in relationship with. How do I navigate this more skillfully? And I'll talk more about what some of the different symptoms are. They show up for different. I want to be very, very clear. I am not trained as a neurodivergent counselor coach. This is coming from my own personal experience from all the people I work with and people in my family. And I am going to be bringing in experts. There's a counselor named Katie Farrell who's going to be joining me next June. This coming June, on June 12th, she's going to be coming and she specializes in this. She's a licensed counselor. She has tons of programs for people who have ADHD, a lot of tools. And so I'm really looking forward to having her come in. So I'm going to be bringing people in who have actually dove deep into the research. I'm coming at it from, I've been an entrepreneur for over 40 years. I figured out I have this condition. I'm around a lot of other entrepreneurs who seem to be challenged with a lot of these things. Most of us are management problems, and most of us don't like working in regular corporate jobs. We just can't stand it. So the entrepreneurial space is filled with neurodivergence. And so I just want to go into a little bit here. I'm going to share a little bit of definitions first. So when I talk about neurodivergence, what am I talking about? Can you see the neurodiversity paradigm? Is that coming up on your screens? Good. All right, so let me get this bigger. So when we're talking about neurodiversity, it's literally a paradigm. It's a structure to take a look at and start exploring what are some of the different things that we're talking about here. Oh, I'm just moving my Zoom stuff around. So it's a framework for understanding human brain functions. And there's a ton of diversity. And one of the things that has been underdiagnosed and misdiagnosed is people on what I refer to as a sensitivity spectrum, which other people refer to as autism, and ADD and ADHD. I guess the new definitions are that it's all ADHD. It just shows up differently for everybody. So there is a place, especially with female-born humans, where we've been massively undiagnosed because we present differently. And when people think about autism, especially, when I was coming of age, even in my graduate program 20 years ago, autism was severe problems functioning, very delayed speech, inability to interact with the environment at all. Just there's this, and mostly male, usually young boys who were just really struggling on the spectrum. So I didn't have any idea that for a lot of female-born humans, as well as like higher functioning, we figured out how to navigate these things. I'm in that realm. So I wanted to just talk about the 5 areas that we are talking about as far as human brain function has to do with sensory processing, motor ability, what kind of social challenges or abilities there are, what kind of cognition, how are we thinking, and how are we able to focus? And not everybody's going to have issues in all 5 of these areas, but they show up in the neurodiverse universe, in the neuro universe. So one of the things that I've noticed happening is like sensory processing and focusing. These 2 things have really affected my life. And in some ways, it's like my focus gets pulled off if I'm not hyper focused. If there's something like when I'm working with my clients, that's all there is. that person in front of me. I'm fascinated. I'm interested. It's always novel. Everything new comes up. I absolutely am geared for hyper focus when I'm doing one-on-one coachings. I'm hyper focused when I'm leading groups. It's like I am all here with you guys right now. When I get out of this situation, I notice tags, things sticking. And one of the things that I've been noticing about sensory processing, where I'm really sensitive and my brain doesn't sort things out, when I'm looking at the recordings of doing these master classes and other classes that I'm teaching, I'm noticing that I'm constantly touching. Like I'm noticing how much I'm touching my head. You'll notice, in some of my other recordings, I don't filter out where something tickles or it itches or there's something, it's like, and I'm unconsciously trying to soothe the fact that I have a lot of sensitivity to something touching my skin, even if it's air, even if it's a hair. So it's been interesting for me to be noticing going over the recordings and to be thinking about how am I sensory, but what am I not filtering out? And so that's one of the special things. So one of the gifts of me not censoring things out as a massage therapist, I was extremely sensitive to what my hands were picking up. There were ways that it became a superpower for me when I was a body worker. It added to um, how I was able to take in multiple levels of information kinesthetically. It's one of my favorite ways of learning. And then with the focus and the concentration awareness, it's the whole joke about squirrel. It's like the distractibility is intense. The other thing that happens for many other people is around social challenges, and that there's frequently a higher level of social anxiety. And when that happens, the averting the gaze, not wanting to be on screen, showing fewer facial expressions, difficulty initiating, it just depends. And again, I just want to remind all of you that this is a spectrum. So somebody may be at a 1 or a 2 or a 3 with some of these things. Other people may be way high. And it's one of the reasons why this isn't going to be a cookie cutter journey. Some of it is I just wanted to give this as the beginning of a definition about when I start referring to neurodiversity, we're looking at all of these potential interactions as we're navigating life, just how our brains are functioning. Oh, wanted to share that about what the heck am I talking about when I'm talking about neurodiversity. Now I want to talk about this. Okay. No, I don't want that one. Stop share. All right. So this for me is more along the lines of what it is that I want to be talking to y'all about because I'm an entrepreneur. I coach entrepreneurs. I like to see you guys succeed. And I also, and this is one of the things that inspired this whole talk today and going down this road this year, being with Nick, I just want it to be more fun. One of the first things that when Nick and I were first exploring doing this together, it doesn't have to be this hard. It's like, whoa, where did you get that? So number 4, I'm just going to jump to it right now. What are the activities that support? So when we go to cognitive freeze, when I go into that fight, flight, or freeze, excuse me, I'm going to pause here for just a sec. I want to take a pause just to get comments and answer some questions for people. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is because there's such it is becoming People are very intrigued with this topic, first of all. So a lot of people have responded to me just launching, just doing this little masterclass. And I know people will be watching the recording, and we're gonna be doing something with this every single month because it is a robust topic. There's a lot of different things to be thinking about. Um, I was sharing that one of the people that I know, late diagnosed on the autism spectrum, it wasn't until they were in their late 30s that anybody had even suggested that they might be on the spectrum, female born human. And panic attacks, shopping, especially at Costco. And the woman who had said, maybe you're on the spectrum, recommended wearing a baseball cap and listening to music that was familiar. And the panic attacks decreased from like a 10 down to a 2. And they were able to go shopping without an intense fight or flight response to the environment. And so that was one of the things that, one of the reasons why I bring up the fight or flight or freeze spectrum is because there are places where we get so overstimulated and we don't know how to regulate or why the stimulus is being so intense. There's excuse me. I want to see everybody differently. Okay, good. There's this place of hiding out because we don't know what's going on. We just think something's wrong with us, or we just hate Costco, which, understandably. But there's this place of, oh, I'm actually overloaded. I have sensory overload. The other reason why I wanted to start talking about this is because so many entrepreneurs are on this, are neurodivergent on one way or another. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what the structure is for creating success. So one of the things that I want to talk about is that for entrepreneurs, leaders, for any of us, especially in really big trying times, we need to be working on our resilience. And resilience is a piece of emotional intelligence, but it's also kind of a category on its own. One of the things that helps us as entrepreneurs respond to quickly changing times, and we are in very big changing times right now, as you all know. There's this huge contraction around what's happening with our financial futures, with what is happening with the tariffs and everything else. Everyone I know in the space, in the entrepreneurial space, is pretty contracted right now. There's a handful of us that are thrilled about what's happening in our businesses, but for the most part, people are pretty scared. There's a big contraction. So I hung out my shingle for counseling back in 2008 when I first started doing mind clearing individually with people, and the crash happened. And the first 10 clients that I had, I would say, what is your stress point? And everybody would say finances. This particular time right now feels like that. And the truth is that most of us have enough. It's our brains that don't believe that we do. So when conditions change as radically as they seem to be right now, it's really, really important to start pulling on our skills of resiliency. So resilience is literally the ability to face reality, our capacity to create meaning in life, the ability to improvise, pivot, make do with what we have, and maintaining a wicked sense of humor. All right. One of the things I know about all the neurodivergence in my life is the capacity to improvise, pivot, and make do with what we have is really high. The other thing that I'm noticing with people in this space, the neurodivergent space, is the ability to face reality. There's just kind of a like, this is the isness of it. And there's a huge gift to that. It's like, I'm not going to go into denial about this. The truth is that we're in a contraction right now. Economically, people are really scared. And I'm like, all right, this is true. The ability to face reality. I have ADHD. What does this mean? It means that I get distracted. It means that I have sensory processing where I'm extremely sensitive to different kinds of stimulus around my skin. It also means that I have the ability to hyper focus, like really go deep into things that really matter a lot to me or fascinate me. Um, so and I choose as an individual to find meaning in my life. I keep looking for where is the meaning? What is the point? Why am I doing this? What is the value that I'm bringing? All of these things are very, very important when I hit my uh, places where I get really stuck. Emotional intelligence, we're not going to go deep into that, but I really want to, not today, other than self-regulation. All right. Um, Actually, I do need to go into emotional intelligence a little bit. This is really important because we've internalized a lot of negative critical thoughts. If we didn't behave or navigate or manage to get through the tasks that being little drone capitalists expect us to do from pre-K all the way on, can you sit in a chair? Can you line up? Can you keep your mouth shut? Um, can you keep your room clean? It's like we need to understand that we internalized a lot of negative thoughts, and whether or not you're neurodivergent, we all have internalized negative thoughts. And our negative thoughts and emotions will persist if we ignore them. So, this is part of what masking is about. Masking is I'm going to pretend that that's not happening. I'm going to pretend with all y'all that's not happening. And I'm going to pretend that I'm not struggling because it's not. I either don't want to be a Debbie Downer or I don't want you to judge me negatively. And what happens instead of going, you know what, I'm overstimulated right now. I need to just step away for 10 minutes and get my body and mind into a different place. And then I'm going to come back. Um, if I'm being that transparent, things go so much better when I'm in meetings, when I'm doing teams, if I'm in intense conversations with people, if I'm in a group situation, I'm overwhelmed. It's like, I'm going to take some time out. I'm going to stop pretending that this isn't tiring for me. It's important for all you to know that emotions are a physiological event, and there's many different ways of self-regulating. So I'll go more into that at different. But again, in point C, being different created a lot of doubts and blame and shame towards ourselves or blame and shame towards other people that we're in relationship with. I know a lot of people that are running, I know couples, several couples that are running businesses and co-creating their lives together, and one or both are neurodivergent. And it creates a lot of misunderstanding and conflict. People don't understand what's happening. So that's another reason why I'm bringing this up. I'm finding it a lot in my clients. So what we need to do, number three, is increase our awareness, which is one of the reasons why that's my big why right now with doing this masterclass. And going in this direction because I'm going to be rolling out a lot around this topic. Um, I want everybody to know that basically there's nothing wrong with you. It's how you're in relationship with your environment. What do I need to do individually if my environment is a certain way? Coming back to the Costco, it's like, what do I need to do if I'm going to be in that environment that causes me some distress? What kind of strategies do I need to do? First of all, I need to know that there's nothing wrong with me. I just have a sensitivity to certain stimulus. It's totally how I hold it. When that happens, and this is something that happened living with Nick, is that it really increased my compassion. It's increasing my compassion for where other people struggle. It's really increased the compassion for where I struggle. It was like I had never, I mean, I'm 65 years old. It was the first time in my life, literally, that I've lived with anyone who was kind to me about where I have trouble completing cycles. So I'll talk more about completing cycles later, but it's like, so I'm more compassionate. Um, One of the things is like, stop trying to fit ourselves into activities that don't work for us. And that can be really hard. You have to say, no, this is a boundaries exercise. It's like, I am not going to do that. I'm going to connect with you in a small group versus connect with you in a large group. I'm going to get that solo work at home alone for me to do my left brain dive deep into accounting, for instance. I'm not going to do that by myself. That's a square peg activity. I need to go around and be around other people when I'm doing certain tasks because I cannot maintain my focus if I'm all alone. So if it's a task that bores me or that causes me anxiety or that I'm not feeling able in. So it's like, where is it that I'm trying to solo function because that's somehow in our culture supposed to be better? How do I stop doing that? So D is increase the activities that enhance or are effective for you, for me in that moment. So one of the things that I do, and a lot of my other clients do, is that they will put themselves at a coffee shop to do the work that bores them. I became a member of the Columbia Tower Club in Seattle literally so that I could go be at the top of the city, 75 floors up, and do my emails, which totally bored me. But when I was up there, I was like, this is fun. It gamified and made fun some of the activities that I struggled with. Communication and educating your close ins and trusted allies and community. It's really important for people to know. It's like when I say, this was really big news for me, you guys, I'm ADD. And pretty much everybody around me went, yeah. It's like, oh, darn. All right. Oh, it's, and the communication and education part is this is how I struggle. This is how you could be more sensitive about that. This is how you could help me with that. This is what I want you to understand. This is where I struggle. This is, you know, and it have it be reciprocal. Is there something else that I can do with you? But it's like setting the clear and healthy boundaries globally. And the inside and out part is setting the boundaries on whatever the itty bitty shitty committee's telling you about there's something wrong with you because you don't do things in a normative way that looks like that everybody's, and a lot of people are pretending, but get to that later. So identifying the activities that support, it doesn't have to be this hard. So when I went into a cognitive freeze, my solution, and I'm not like recommending that everybody do drugs, but I did low doses of Adderall when I was absolutely frozen with a huge project that I had to get done in 2 weeks, and I couldn't literally cognitively figure out how to begin, how to push through, and how to get through it. So for the first time in my life, I actually did a very low dose of Adderall this year, and I only did it for 3 days, and it kicked me out of that. So that was one of the solutions. The other piece of cognitive freeze is to really have company and have another person there to help break down what are the actual steps, what's the A, B, C, D, E, F, G of this particular project, to not have to navigate it, thinking it through all by yourself. It's like really pulling somebody in if you get into a cognitive freeze. And cognitive freeze is really in the blue zone. It's like we are frozen. And so it's really important to get more than enough support if that kind of level of in resistance or inability to move forward hits you. Um, there's there's a tendency to resist tasks and or an ability and to like start to begin the task, especially if you know that it's really bored you or you've failed at completing it over and over and over again. That's part of the cycles. This piece is really about completing cycles. And one of the things I know about artists, and I also know about people on the spectrum, and I know about myself, whatever you want to call what's happening over here, is that I actually have a very easy time beginning most things, especially if they're novel, but there becomes a point in the cycle that gets uncomfortable or boring, or the cognitive freeze starts coming in, and it's like, I don't know what the next step is. And rather than getting help or pushing through somehow to like complete the task, I'll start another task. And I've talked with a lot of other people who are neurodivergent who have this. Some people just get dopamine from completing a task. They just Oh, it feels so good. I've talked to several people, myself included, completing a task creates more anxiety. I haven't figured out, I haven't not unpacked that, but I just know for myself, I have to set the intention I am going to clean this kitchen, every pot. I'm not going to leave a little bit of it. I am going to complete this particular task and I'm going to push through whatever it is. I have to set the intention, right? One of the things that helps with those projects that are difficult, and I'm here at my niece's house, is we were both talking about having what I've referred to, what Nick has been telling me about goblin boxes and goblin boxes, um, the papers, unsorted papers. Anybody else have some goblin boxes, some goblin piles in your closet, your garage? It's like these places where there's incomplete. And so we do our papers together. That's side by side play. Hiring help. I've had organizers come in over and over and over again at different points in my life to help declutter my life. I've actually, over the last 12 years, probably 12 to 13 years, really transformed a lot of my behaviors around clutter. And I had to get help. I had to have somebody come in, help me get back to baseline. I'd practice it for myself. It'd get out of hand. I'd hire help. There's a lot of people that have executive assistants. A lot of my very high-end clients are extremely ADD. They're brilliant. They're very successful. And they know where they just do not function well. And they get help. They have executive assistants. They have people coming helping. They have house managers. They have people that are helping them. Not all of us have that capacity. And so we have to figure out how to do this lean. When I talk about discharge, I'm talking about there are going to be a lot of feels that come up. How do you discharge your emotions, coming back up to emotional intelligence so that you can let them go and keep functioning? So there's a whole bunch of different things within each one of these points, but I wanted to go through them and say, this is the structure. And I'm going to pause the recording again and hear comments and questions. So we're talking about a lot of different things. I love the conversations that happen. And part of it is like, what do we do when the task is boring and we know we need it to get done? Housekeeping is one of them. It's like, what is the social contract? What's the social expectation about what our houses look like? I can remember a New Year's Eve gathering I had, and I'd been on a 4-day trip, and the house had been trashed before we went. And we didn't have time to clean before our friends came over, and it was pretty bad. And one of my dear friends walked in and she just went, "Oh, I just feel so relaxed here, and you're helping me relax about my own house." And I was like, it was good. You're making me feel so much better about my own house, I think is actually what she said. It was like, good. So we're looking at what are the different strategies coming down. So I want, after this particular talk that we've been in the middle of, for y'all to identify one thing that you get stuck with or that's uncomfortable and where you might get some help. So one of the comments is like, who's going to come keep me company when I put all my clothes away? And I love to invite my friends over. And I was like, you could just sit on the bed and have a cup of tea and we'll have a nice chat and I'll put all my clothes away. And then we can go for a walk. I can take you to dinner. We can do, it's like there's ways of, I bribe my friends with time because I tend to be really busy. And now that I'm traveling, it's like we're missing each other a lot. So any excuse to be together is good. I actually do it on the phone. I've done this with other people where it's like, oh, I've got something to do. Will you do errands with me? I've walked around doing errands with people. They've been on the phone with me while I'm putting away all my clothes. It's like, what can we do to get support? The other ideas that were coming up, the tasks that are boring, listening to podcasts and doing things that like help distract us from the boredom of the task. Identifying what's our intention. This is one of the biggest things that will change how you do your life is to set clear intentions, very clear intentions about What's the point? Why are you doing it? For me, cleaning my house, the social niceties about it obviously weren't enough of a motivation for me for a long time. What has become a motivation for me is that I cognitively am more organized and more relaxed when my environment is cleaner, when it's more zen. And so I'm noticing how can my environment again support me in the tasks that I'm feeling passionate about bringing forward in the world. It also helps keep me from the more organized I am, the more support I have, however it is that I choose to get it. I'm more successful. My income goes up. My capacity to be engaged with other human beings is greater, and and I'm less overwhelmed. There's actually more space in my life. There's more. Uh, I just love it. I just there's more space is the best way that I can say it. You know, one of my moms, my stepmama, was extremely organized, and I said, I don't know how you do that. And she said, sweetheart, it's because I'm lazy. I want to drink my tea and read my book. I am this organized and this focused so that I can have this other thing. For me, being in the garden, being out in nature, having days, weeks in having adventures and doing different things, the more organized I am, the more ability I have to have more pleasure and not having to like focus so hard on the things that actually bore me. So this is the big takeaway is for my request is for your takeaways to write down and send me any comments you have if you're watching this after the fact, watching the recording, about any questions you might have and any insights you're taking away. What kinds of things came up with this initial talk? Because we will be revisiting it over and over and over again. And pulling out really specific things. Where can you get side by side play? Where is it that you might be struggling with cycles? Where might you need to come up with some strategies for garden parties, being out in the world a little bit more? Post-pandemic, I'm noticing as I'm traveling all over the world that there's been a great contraction that people don't have as many people in their homes. They're not going out as much. Not everybody, but there's a big trend that I'm noticing. And what kind of strategies can you put into place to have it be more comfortable to have people either in your home or have you go out and be with people more socially? So those are just some of my initial thoughts. Thank you so much for showing up in all the ways you do. Please reach out anytime.